Welcome to Ideas That Inspire, where uplifting stories spark hope, inspire change, and remind us that we all have the power to make a difference. Hello, my friend, and welcome back to the Ideas That Inspire podcast. I'm your host, Emily, and in today's honest and heart-centered conversation, we're diving into the messy, beautiful world of parenting and the power of building real community around it. Have you ever felt like you're the only one stumbling through yet another stage of parenthood? You're not alone. And today's guest is here to remind you of that in the most compassionate way. I'm joined by Sophie Moskowitz, founder of Imperfect Parents, an inclusive parent education community in Tamaki Makaurau, Auckland, that creates safe, welcoming spaces for parents to connect, share honestly, and feel supported, no matter their family structure. In this episode, Sophie shares how her experience during the COVID lockdowns sparked the idea to share her own story on Instagram, a simple act that soon led to the creation of pregnancy circles and over time organically grew into a thriving community, offering antenatal classes, nature playgroups, and inclusive parent support groups. You'll also hear why accessibility and inclusivity are at the heart of her mission, what it looks like to build a purpose-led business while raising young children, and how Sophie is helping parents release perfectionism and embrace community, self-compassion, and connection. Just a quick heads up, Sophie's mic battery dies around the 20-minute mark, so you may notice a shift in the audio quality, but I've done my best to smooth it out. Here's my powerful conversation with Sophie. Welcome to the show, Sophie. Thank you so much for being here and taking the time to talk to me today.
Yeah, pleasure.
To begin, I'd love for you to introduce yourself, your business, and what it is that you do.
My name's Sophie Moskowitz. I have a business called Imperfect Parents. We run in-person postnatal support groups, antenatal education, and nature play groups in Tamaki Makaurau, Auckland at the moment, all with the goal of helping parents to find community and find each other and find their village and feel a little bit less alone in what they're going through as parents.
Such a beautiful goal. To help the community get to know you a little better, can you share your cultural background and how where you grew up shaped who you are today?
Yeah, sure. I sound like a typical New Zealander, but I was actually born in the States. I was born in California to an American father and Kiwi mum. My dad is Jewish American, so his grandparents were Jewish immigrants to the States, and we lived in California in a place called Oakland, which is near San Francisco. And then we moved here to New Zealand to be closer to my mum's family, mainly. Moved here just before I turned 5, and so I started school here, and then the rest of my upbringing was here in central Auckland. And yeah, I guess coming from this slightly mixed background, I always felt like I was living in two different worlds. We would go back to the States every year to visit my dad's family. So I think I always just had that sense of like the world being a bit of a bigger place than just where we were and where we lived, which I now realize is quite unique and quite lucky as well, I think, to be able to have that experience of going back and forth. Also hard sometimes, like having family in two different places. It meant that we didn't get to see as much of my dad's family because they were so far away. But yeah, growing up in central Auckland at that time in the 90s, it was very different from what it is today. And it was very culturally diverse when I was growing up here. I went to Westmere Primary, which was, very culturally diverse school. It was not the privileged, wealthy area that it is today. And I think for me, that was really excellent. It's really great to be able to have friends from all different places, whose parents were from all different places. It made me feel like I wasn't the only one who had this kind of mixed background. And then when I was at high school, I went to Auckland Girls, which also was really diverse. And yeah, I think just having that experience with a lot of different cultures gave me a real appreciation for different ways of being and living, and made me want to see the world as well. So when I finished high school, I didn't go straight to uni. I went and lived in Spain for a year, and I'd studied a bit of Spanish at high school, and yeah, was just so eager to like go and see the world. And then came back and went to uni, and then after uni, my partner and I lived overseas for a few years as well. So yeah, I've always just kind of had this real urge to explore the world and experience different places and meet different people. Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. Such a diverse upbringing, and must have been really amazing spending that time in Spain just straight out of school.
Yeah, although it was incredible now looking back on it, I was like, God, I can't believe my parents just let me go and do that because we did some crazy things. But also, it wasn't fully the overseas living experience that I had expected because we went over at the time that the America's Cup was on. So my friend and I ended up nannying for a lot of the New Zealand and American families that were there for the America's Cup. So it wasn't like a fully immersed cultural experience. I have to like caveat that.
Yeah, but such a different experience.
So different.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that I really remember feeling when I went over there, like obviously it's still, yeah, it's living in this completely different place. I was living with different people. I kind of hopped around where I was living for the first few months that I was there and just had this sense. I was like, wow, it's amazing like how quickly things that are so different initially can suddenly become really normal. And yeah, it was just this wonder at like, oh God, it's incredible like how we can just adapt to new things and different things. And even when it's really hard, that yeah, things just become normal really quickly.
Yeah. Do you remember it being really scary when you went?
No, I really wasn't scared at the time. I was just excited. I was really excited to just like be somewhere else. One of my best friends went as well, and we weren't living together, but we were doing it together. So I think that really helped, was like not being completely on my own.
Yep, you had someone that was going through the same things and you could share what you were going through and enjoy that excitement together.
Exactly, which as we'll see is like a theme for what I do now. You know, having other people in the experience with you, I think makes things so much easier.
Good advice. Oh, what an amazing upbringing.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, you started Imperfect Parents back in 2022, but I understand the idea really began during the 2020 lockdowns. Can you take us back to that time? What was that moment that sparked the idea to create this community?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, to go back even further, I have always known that I wanted to work with babies and young children. And so, my background, even earlier on at uni, I did psychology and I worked in child development psychology for a little while. And then I nannied overseas for some time, came back and did early childhood teaching. And when I was doing the early childhood teaching, I just remember feeling like it is amazing what we do as teachers, but ultimately we're a very tiny part of these children's lives. And I felt like the difference that we're making, yes, it's important, but ultimately it's like the parents that are shaping these children's lives. And so having some kind of impact on the parents is really where we can see the most change. And then in 2020, I had my first child in 2017, gone back to teaching. April 2020, my second child was born, which was in the middle of that very first COVID lockdown.
Wow.
So gave birth at home, planned. And from then on in Auckland, we had a lot of lockdowns for over the next 2 years. And for every lockdown, I was at home on my own with my toddler and my baby. And my partner was an essential worker, so he wasn't home with us, and always worked with children. I had so much experience working with children. I had always wanted to have my own children. And I found that time so incredibly hard. I found it so hard being by myself with the children. And I just remember going like, what is wrong with me? Like, why am I finding this so difficult? This is what I've always wanted. Intellectually, I know what to do here. But it was just so hard being that isolated. And it really just made me feel like this is not how we were supposed to do this. We were not supposed to be parenting in isolation like this. And I've been really lucky in my own journey that I've had children at the same time as a lot of my friends. So when we weren't in lockdown, we could have a lot of social contact with other people. But I know that not everybody has that. And that was kind of a real catalyst for me to go, okay, parents need to be with other parents, and parents need to be with other parents, not necessarily in spaces where they're being told what to do either, because I was seeing so much on social media at that time around 1,000,001 activities that you can set up for your child and different ways that you should be playing with your child or you should be entertaining them, and all of these kind of shoulds, which like layering on top of already feeling like you're not doing a very good job makes you feel even worse. So I started my social media page first, my Instagram page, just as a way of going like, it's okay if you're not doing all of these things. Like our babies actually don't need all of that. They don't need us to buy 1,000,001 toys or sensory activities. They actually don't need us to set all of that up. they need so much less than what everybody is telling us. And we need to do generally a lot less than what we think we do. So it was really about sharing that with parents and going like, you are doing enough and you don't have to do this perfectly either. I was really inspired by the work of Brené Brown and her book, The Gifts of Imperfection. That was a really big catalyst for me and how I thought about myself and how I was doing things as well, because particularly I'd had my first child and she was a relatively easy baby. She slept through the night from really early on. I was like, oh, cool. That's just because of me, because I know what I'm doing. And then when I had my second, he was not the same. And I couldn't be the same parent that I wanted to be when I had two children. By the nature of it, you're split between them. So it was really me having to reconcile these ideals that I had for myself and how I wanted to be, and go like, it's okay if I'm not meeting those ideals all of the time. It's okay if our house is not immaculate all of the time. It's okay if I'm not cooking nutritious home cooked meals for every single meal that we eat. Just all of this letting go of these ideals that I'd had for myself, and then wanting to share that with other people, because I knew that I was not the only one feeling that way. That didn't really get into the actual start of the business, but it's more like the genesis.
I can't even imagine what that must have been like for you, having your baby during lockdown and having this expectation of what it was going to be like to be a parent, and then having the opportunity for that to be taken away, and then taking that time to understand that this isn't right and there is a better way to do it.
Yeah, that was my second child as well. So, I'd done the first time parent thing and had been really lucky that it was really positive. And I think that that's what really threw me, was that everything the first time had gone really well.
So seeing that contrast.
Yeah, and on top of that isolation, and just realizing that that's not conducive to a healthy mental state.
Do you think if that hadn't happened, Imperfect Parents might have never evolved?
Potentially. I don't know. It's so hard to know, right? But there was also the consideration after I had my second. Yes, it was during COVID, so everyone was like a little bit more sensitive about sending their children back to daycare. But honestly, as a daycare teacher, I wasn't really earning enough money to justify paying for two children in childcare either. So there was a bit of a financial aspect to it as well, going like, oh, actually, I think I need to rethink what I'm going to do from here on in, because
life is expensive.
Yeah, rethink what it's going to look like for our family. Exactly. Life is expensive, and wanting to still be able to prioritize time with my own family. That made me kind of think about, how I could restructure work and what that looked like. And I always feel like I need to acknowledge that we are in a pretty privileged financial position, because we were able to build a house on my mum's land. And so our mortgage is like considerably less than what it would have been otherwise. A big thing that people don't necessarily always talk about is the financial side behind starting a business, is that you really have to be able to afford to not make any money for a while. And that's what we have been able to do. We've been able to let me kind of pursue this passion project without worrying about whether it's making money, which it's not really. So that's like my goal for this year, is try and figure out how it can make money.
But thank you for sharing that, because that's such a good reminder that we all have these great expectations that we're going to start a business and it's just going to be the most amazing experience and the money's going to flow in, but it's not really the reality.
No.
But it doesn't mean that we can't keep working towards it. And if we're lucky enough to be in that place, to have that time to build that up and then be excited for what's going to come in the future.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I think it is that privilege of finances and of time to be able to spend time to do this and to build it up. And I guess that is why a lot of people I see do start businesses while they're on parental leave, because you have this time, you have a little bit of income coming in from the government. You're like, okay, what can I do quickly to like reshift what we're doing, so I don't have to go back to what I was doing before. But yeah, so it really started from this idea of wanting to work with parents. In 2021, so like the year after my baby was born, my second, I enrolled in a program at ARA Institute, which is a diploma in pregnancy, childbirth and early parenting education. I wanted to just upskill a little bit in terms of facilitating groups and providing education for parents. And it was while I was studying that I started running pregnancy circles initially, because it was cool. We've got this education space for people while they're pregnant, but there wasn't really any emotional support to that. All of the antenatal education still really is so focused on the like practicalities and the medical side of things. And going through pregnancy is an incredibly emotional experience as well. So yeah, I've started pregnancy circles as a way to connect people and help them, like provide a space for them to share that with each other.
Yeah, so you had this idea of doing the pregnancy circles.
Yeah.
How did you turn that into reality and get that started? Was it through your Instagram that you'd started?
Yeah, basically, almost all of my marketing, almost to date, has just been through my Instagram. So it was kind of, I'd built up a little bit of a following just by sharing my own experiences and stories and tips and tricks or whatever on that page. And I don't even remember like how many people must have been following me at that point. But obviously it was enough that I started going, okay, I'm going to start running these monthly pregnancy circles. You just sign up like month by month. So like who's coming to this month's one, and did that for a few months, and then realized that it's actually quite difficult logistically to be doing a rolling thing like that where you have to get people to sign up every time and you kind of having to hustle for every single session. So that became a bit unsustainable, which is a shame because I do think that it's a valuable thing for parents. But from a business perspective and looking at where my time was going, it was not sustainable. But I knew that I wanted to do that, and then I wanted to start these postnatal parents groups to kind of catch people on the other side of their pregnancies once they had the babies. So in, I think it was July 2022, I started my first postnatal parents group, which I called the Imperfect Parents group, and that's where this Imperfect Parents was born. And again, that was only advertised through my Instagram page. It was just like one group on a Friday morning, and I think I started it going, I was like, I have no idea how many people are going to sign up for this. I've got no idea if they're going to be interested. It's this really brand new thing that I hadn't really seen anyone else do before. So I started it out, I think, as like, you can sign up for 4 weeks and we'll just see how that goes. And then as we got to the end of that 4 weeks, I basically said to that same group, do you want to keep going? And they were all like, yes. So we ran it for the whole term, and then most of those people ended up signing up for the subsequent term as well. So it just started really with that one group, and that one group of people, I can like see on my phone that their group chat is still popping off. How many years later are we? Yeah, those babies are all turning 3 now.
Still connected.
Yeah, are still really connected. They're still supporting each other. They're still asking questions, going like, God, is anyone else's kid doing this? Because you don't stop needing that support as your children get older. Like, you're still baffled by them.
Yeah, such a special thing to have those people to connect with and bounce ideas off and ask questions and feel like you're in the same boat, and then to be able to grow.
Yeah, exactly. And I know that for a lot of people, they get that from their coffee groups or from their antenatal classes. And I do think those can be really valuable. But I guess our point of difference is that we have a real mix of first time, second time, third time, fourth time parents coming along. So it's not usually coffee groups and antenatal classes are all first time parents. So I really love it when we have the kind of mix of different parents, because you get those different perspectives of, it's so different when you have your first baby compared to subsequent babies, and the support that they can offer each other is so different, because they can go like, oh yeah, my first was like that and I did blah, blah, blah. And also we have facilitators in our group. So that's the real big difference with coffee groups, is that what I could see from a lot of the coffee groups and the antenatal classes that I was already facilitating is that it just becomes a bit like the blind leading the blind in a way, especially with first time parents. Someone going like, oh yeah, I read this, and then they share it with their coffee group, and then like something that's just a total myth, or not based on evidence, or it's like what people were told 30 years ago and we know different now. So a really big part of what we do is a lot of myth busting, and having our facilitators there to go like, actually, the evidence doesn't really support that. So really trying to guide parents. While we absolutely believe that there's like no one right way of doing things, there is so much out there that is like overwhelming in terms of like how you navigate this overload of information, and B, a lot of really predatory marketing to parents that we want to try and cut through.
That sounds fantastic, having those facilitators there to just be that guide for everyone, and then, as you say, like having all those different parents in different stages of parenthood to being able to share their experience and learn new things, and
yeah,
it just sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Was there something that sparked the idea for the name?
I think it was actually really inspired by that Brene Brown book, The Gifts of Imperfection. And that was a really personal journey for me of having to let go of a lot of my perfectionism traits and accept this idea of, being imperfect. And not only that it's like okay to be imperfect, but that it's actually like beneficial, that it's good for us to be imperfect, that it's good for our children to see us be imperfect as well, that it's good for them to see us mess up, make mistakes, and own up to it and repair as well. Because, yeah, it's like paralyzing to try and do things perfectly all the time and breeds so much anxiety, which we already see so much in parents. And B, yeah, I think it really just teaches ourselves and our children about how to have healthy relationships with ourselves, how to have self-compassion. A few years ago, before I started this, I did a course in mindful self-compassion. And that was really transformative for me as well. Just this idea of, we should be talking to ourselves like we would our best friend. This inner critic that we have, where we dump on ourselves and we tell ourselves that we're doing a terrible job, that's not helpful to anybody. So the more that we can be compassionate for ourselves, the better in so many ways.
That must have been a great course to go through. We would all benefit from doing something like that. So I love how you shared when you first started out, you were just making it up as you go and seeing what people wanted and just kind of going with the flow. Can you remember what else was really challenging when you got started? Was there a moment that tested your resilience? How did you push through that? Anything else that you found challenging?
I think the whole thing's been challenging. I mean, I have no experience with running a business before this. So I really, as you say, I've just been totally making it up as I go along. It's been really ad hoc. Everything has grown really organically as well. So I went from this one group in the first year to, I think, maybe in the second term, I added a second group, and it's just been like really slowly growing. While I also have had my kids at home and been trying to juggle what I was going to do with them. My second one especially, my first was at Kohanga by then. And then also just, the thing when you start your own business is that you are in charge of everything. In charge of the accounting, of the marketing, of the chasing everyone up with emails, of the promotion.
So much admin.
And I'm like looking at my diary right in front of me now, and it's just these pages of to-do lists. So juggling that on top of parenting and on top of like actually facilitating the groups this whole time has been a lot. And just kind of figuring out that balance of going, like, I've always wanted to accommodate as many people as I can. I've always wanted to make it financially accessible for people as well. So just starting out, I'm still operating as a sole trader and I charge for the groups, but the entire time I've also said that we have koha spots, pay what you can for anybody that needs them. So I don't discriminate with those. I never say no if anyone needs them. I always offer payment plans because I see the results of this for parents and I see how beneficial it is, and I never want finances to be a barrier. So an ongoing challenge for that has been trying to figure out how to fund that. And a lot of that has just been me funding it myself and going like, okay, we just won't make as much money this term. And again, that's a financial privilege to be able to do that. For a little while, I've had family members who loved what we were doing and invested some money to help pay for those spots. We've done a couple of fundraisers in the past as well to help fund them. So we did a market one time, like a secondhand market, where we collected a bunch of donations and then sold them all. And last year I did like a fundraising comedy evening with Rebecca Kyle, who's an Instagram influencer, comedian, and really just having to get creative with funding. That's one of my big goals for this year, is to be a little bit less creative and a little bit more strategic about it.
That's amazing. So generous and so wonderful to hear all those different creative things that you're doing to make it work for where you are now.
Yeah. And as we've grown, so now we're running 7, 8, 9 different groups. And so obviously that's more people, that's more koha spots, that's more money. So really having to spend more time figuring out how to make that sustainable, because that's really important to me.
Can you get grants and things like that?
Theoretically, but because we're not a charity, there's a lot that we're not eligible for. And I don't want to become a charity either, because then you give up ownership of it. If you become a charity, you have to have a board or a trust. And so then it's like, not mine. I can't do whatever I want with it anymore. So I've been advised against that.
Oh, so difficult because, you're doing such amazing work and it's just so generous, and I can see how much you want to help people and include everyone and make it available for everyone, but then to have that financial struggle and have to be creative, but that all takes time and
exactly.
Doesn't make it easy.
No, exactly. Yeah, so that's probably been one of the biggest challenges this whole time, is financial sustainability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you're doing an amazing job, and hopefully it just keeps growing and good things come to you.
Fingers crossed. That's why part of the goal of doing some more publicity, things like this, is that more people find out about it and hear about it and are like, oh my God, yeah, I'd love to support that.
Yes.
I'll give them some money.
So yeah, you talked earlier about how your first Imperfect Parents group back in 2022 formed such strong bonds and that they continue today.
Yeah.
What did that experience reveal about the need for more spaces like this and what you're creating?
Oh, yeah, it was just the feedback that we got from that very first group was just so revealing. There were parents there a lot of parents who didn't have that social support coming from anywhere else. And they were saying that it really did make such an enormous difference to their postpartum journey, to their mental health journey, to their confidence as parents. I try to collect feedback from every group to see how we can improve things, what's working, what's not working as well. And yeah, it's just really confirmed to me how important these spaces are for parents to just like have. I don't think I've actually really talked about how the groups work in practice.
Yeah, share a bit about that.
Yeah, okay. It's a very simple structure, and sometimes I don't want to share too much because I'm like, it's too easy to copy. But
the more groups, the better.
Exactly. Yeah, the more of this out there, the better. So one of the things I've learned in my journey is that we cap the groups at a particular size. So we have a maximum now of 12 parents in each group, and each group runs for a term. We often encourage them to carry over for at least one other term. And it's really just a kind of like sharing circle. So we sit down, the facilitator starts the conversation, and everybody gets a chance to share what they're going through at the time. We have different questions that we ask each week to get to know each other. And it's always really focusing on talking about a good thing that's going on and a hard thing that's going on, because we want to acknowledge that both happen. And yeah, creating these really safe spaces where people feel safe to open up and be honest about what they're going through, because invariably if one person shares something, you can look around the room and see a ton of nods of everybody else going like, oh my God, yes, I can absolutely relate to that. And, we encourage that conversation to flow when that happens, because the whole idea is that, I think it's a Brené Brown quote as well, that when shame dies, when stories are shared in safe places.
Oh, beautiful.
And so the idea is that we're creating safe spaces so that people can share their stories and feel a little bit less ashamed or embarrassed or isolated with what they're going through.
Oh, beautiful.
Mm.
Yeah, that just sounds like a priceless thing that you're creating, and thank you so much for sharing more about that.
Yeah, and I really do, when you say something's priceless, you're like, yes, but you are charging for it.
That is true.
And I really have tried to be quite considered about how, as I said before, we offer spaces, but when I look at what we charge for the full price, it's comparable to a yoga class or a Pilates class or a baby swimming class, or there's a lot of other baby activities, and we're priced pretty similarly. And I think particularly compared to the baby activities,
way more value for money.
So much more value for money. It's a 2-hour session. We feed them while they're there as well, because it's really important to us that we're looking after these parents. For some of them, that might be the first meal that they've had that day. They always say oh God, just to sit down and have someone bring you a coffee is such a luxury. So it's really about this wraparound care for these parents. It's that whole holistic well-being.
Oh, so good.
Yeah.
And I know that your work has been influenced by your mentor, the late Lou Kelly.
Yes.
And their dedication to queer-friendly spaces.
Yeah.
And that community and inclusivity are core values of Imperfect Parents.
Yes.
How do you ensure that your spaces remain welcoming for the rainbow parents that come along?
Yeah, that's such a great point. So I learned so much from Lou about the importance of providing this safe, inclusive care for queer parents, because so much of what is out there for parents is really heteronormative, and really so much talks about mums and dads and these nuclear families that we know, even for hetero people, don't necessarily always exist. There are so many different ways to have a family now. And regardless of what your family looks like, we want these to be inclusive spaces, including with our antenatal education. So we've had a lot of parents now come through who are in same-sex couples, who are trans, who are solo parents by choice. And we deliberately use really inclusive language when we're teaching. So we've had surrogacy couples as well. So we talk about like birthing people, we talk about support people, and we explain at the beginning of our sessions why we use that language, that it's not diminishing anyone's title that they want to use for themselves. If you identify as a woman or a mother, like absolutely, we will use those terms for you. But when we're addressing a whole group, then we don't assume how people identify. And we have had really amazing feedback about how important that is for those parents, because for most of them, particularly for queer families, especially for trans people, they have had so many negative interactions with different like health and education services. And we just don't want that for them when they come to us. We want this to be a positive experience so that they can also feel safe and supported. We know that they have often worse mental health stats, and so we want to be trying to improve that for them as well. And I think just from what we've seen of the people that have attended, we're able to achieve that. And I know that a lot of people sometimes think, if you're thinking about, oh, but it's a group for mums, and what happens if there's a dad there or men in the group? It's been absolutely fine. It doesn't actually matter who is there. Parents groups that people attend with their babies in the mornings, those are primary parents, and the majority of what they are all going through is very similar, regardless of what gender they identify as. And yes, there are differences if you have a partner or if you don't have a partner, and if you live by yourself or if you live with family. In our first sessions, we really try to explore everyone's journey to parenthood and a little bit about their own background and upbringing, so that we start on this playing field of understanding each other's backgrounds, so that then we can understand a wee bit like maybe why someone might do something a little bit different. Because I think with knowledge comes so much understanding and empathy for other people.
Yeah, I love that you are creating the space for all types of people, but you're also creating a space that people can be with all types of people.
Yeah.
So it just opens up their world.
Yes.
They're getting to know different types of people, and as you say, learning their journeys and with their children, and being able to talk about those things with their children as they grow up. And it's just making such a more open and people with more awareness going forward. Beautiful.
Yeah, that's definitely the goal. I've had feedback also from parents who've attended who've gone like, oh wow, this has actually like made me a more compassionate person towards other people, because it really makes you less judgmental, because the more you know about someone, the more you go like, oh, this surface thing that I can see them doing that I might have gone like, oh, I don't know why they're doing that way. If you understand the why behind it, it takes the judgment away.
Yeah, so good.
Are
you looking for a way to support the podcast and the planet? Ascent's Ocean Foam Hand and Body Wash has been bringing me so much joy lately. It's not just the fresh East Coast citrusing scent. It's the feeling of supporting a purpose-driven Kiwi business, doing things differently. Patrick, the founder of Ascent, has created something really special, a fully circular refill system that's simple and sustainable. You get a beautiful glass bottle with a durable steel pump designed to last, and when it's time to refill, you can send your empties back for free. It's honestly a no-brainer. And as a bonus, the Ideas That Inspire community gets 10% off the wash set, gift set, and duo set with the code IDEAS10OFF. That's IDEAS, the number 10, OFF, at ascentrefills.nz, or by using the link in the show notes. If you're ready to ditch single-use plastic and support innovation that's good for people and the planet, start your Buy Once Refill Forever journey with Ascent today. Feeling stuck on your next idea, goal, or dream? Let's chat. In a clarity call, I'll help you gain fresh perspectives, feel empowered, and move forward with confidence. Book your session now at ideasthatinspire.com. Now you've expanded to include antenatal classes, nature play groups, and you've got your parent groups.
Yes.
What's that growth journey been like? And as you talked earlier about taking on staff, and I assume more of a manager's role.
The growth has been really, really incremental, and again, pretty organic. It's been like, okay, first it was me running a couple of groups and then going like, oh, I don't think I can really do much more than this myself. Who else can I bring on board? And it's really been like almost one person at a time. The very first person that came to work with me is a really good friend of mine, Tajala Judd, who is a midwife, and we've known each other since we were in high school. She attended all of my births. We're very closely entwined, and I knew that she is very philosophically aligned as well. She was brought up by two mums, so she inherently has that queer inclusivity as well. And so she came on board running initially one more of our Imperfect Parents groups, and now she runs a couple of those. She also teaches one of our antenatal classes as well, because obviously as a midwife she is excellent at that, and I know that she has so much experience in postnatal support and feeding support and all of that kind of thing. So she was like a real no-brainer for me to hire or contract. She's a contractor with me. And then other people, have been people that I have worked with, that I studied with. There's someone, again, that I've known for a long time, Dagmar, who runs our nature play groups, and she had moved up to Auckland from Blenheim, and she actually approached me because she was like, look, you've already got this following. I'd love to get nature play groups up and running. Can I do them under your umbrella? I'm like, okay, absolutely. Yeah, it just seemed, again, like such a no-brainer to me, because she'd been running these nature play groups for years in Blenheim. She'd run parent support groups as well. So it was really easy to get those up and running. The nature play groups they've been a harder sell in terms of people not really understanding the point of them.
Yeah, I wanted to talk to you about those. Spending time in nature has so many benefits for both children and parents.
Yes, exactly.
And this time outdoors, do you think that it makes a lasting impact on the children and nurtures that deeper appreciation for the environment once the parents kind of understand what that's all about and come along?
Yeah, that's definitely the idea. Again, it's like working with other people. The more that you get to know something, the better you understand it, the more you want to look after it. And that goes for other people and for the environment. And yeah, we know so much about just how beneficial for everybody being out in nature is. And the question we sometimes get asked is, well, why would I pay to come to this? I could just go to the park. And it's like, well, you could.
But do you?
But you don't know who's going to be there. Yeah, and do you? Exactly. And I think people really like having a structure. So it's like, okay, every Monday morning, this is where we're going. We go to a different spot every time so that people are exploring different places in the city that they haven't necessarily been to before. So sometimes it's the beach and sometimes it's a park. We deliberately avoid playgrounds. And so we go somewhere where there is no playground in sight. And because a lot of parents really do often default to just going to a playground, whereas nature play is so much more open-ended. Children can really explore their creativity. And it's great for all ages. So we get people coming with their newborn babies. It's great for parents that have more than one child as well. So often with a baby and a toddler or a preschooler. So the babies can lie around on these big mats we put out and they're just tree gazing basically.
So avoiding the playgrounds is to stop that structured play and to actually allow them to be more creative and explore.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I am not actually a real big fan of most playgrounds. I think they are quite restrictive and dictate how children play. This is like my ECE background coming in, that we know that open-ended play is really beneficial for children's creativity and problem solving and exploration and confidence building, because there's no rules. They can do it however they want. And we see really beautiful collaboration with the older children when they come along. We bring a bunch of open-ended resources as well, which are a lot of recycled kitchen items and ropes and fabric. And it's just like, okay, cool, go for it.
And do you have structure to learn more about nature, or you just see what unfolds?
Not necessarily. No, we're not there to teach, apart from our antenatal education, I guess. What we are there to teach is to teach parents how to observe what their children are doing and follow their lead. That's what we're teaching. So we're not there to go like, okay, let's all sit down and learn about what this leaf is and what it means. And, you know, we might be exploring, and if the children collect a bunch of leaves, we might go like, oh, what do you think these are? Oh, these are kawakawa. Did you know that you can eat them? Or you can make tea from them. They're medicinal. But it's really incidental rather than a structured learning program. And that's how our ECE curriculum works as well, ideally, is that it is mostly following children's lead, following their interests, letting them lead the way, because we know that when children are leading their learning and when the learning is meaningful to them, that's when they learn the best. Not when we're coming down with our adult ideas of what they should be studying or learning.
How do you think that transitions for them when they do move into more structured education going forward? Do you think they take that with them and hope that they don't get it beaten out of them?
Oh, we hope so. We hope so.
So hard, isn't it, to set that all up and then go into the system, and then it just is so different.
Yeah. We do also know, though, that their brains, when they're 6 or 7, they do go through a developmental change. And so they do actually adapt to more structured learning as they get older.
So it still has benefit, but in a different way.
Yeah, oh, of course. Because what we're doing with, I think people sometimes feel like they have to do structured learning when children are young to prepare them for school, but that's not how it works. Doing this free play, unstructured learning is building these foundations in their brain to enjoy learning, to enjoy exploring, to feel confident in themselves. In ECE, we talk about learning dispositions, and those are really positive learning dispositions that they can then take with them to school. When they are encountered with this new environment, they still feel confident. They still are like, oh yeah, I remember feeling like curious about learning new things. And it's that curiosity that we want to foster. It's the confidence that we want to foster. It's a sense of belonging and knowing their place and where they live that we want to foster, because all of that is what raises these healthy human beings, hopefully.
Oh, it just all sounds wonderful. And we need more, need more of that.
I know, with my background in ECE, I was really apprehensive.
What does ECE stand for?
Early childhood education. So studied early childhood education, and I was really apprehensive about sending my child to school for that really structured learning. I was like, oh God, it's going to all get squashed out of it. But I've been so pleasantly surprised. I think it depends very much on the individual teachers that they have every year, but I have been so pleasantly surprised by how nurturing it can be and how they can still maintain that sense of individuality. They're not little factories like they once were.
And I can certainly see your passion and positivity for creating these amazing spaces. What's your favourite thing about the business and the positive impact that it makes? Like, what's the most rewarding part of seeing your work making a difference by uplifting others and creating these amazing futures for these children?
I think my favourite thing is seeing the flow on of these parents connecting with each other. So we see it both within our group sessions, hearing them support one another, but also each of our groups gets its own WhatsApp chat. I was saying before we started that my WhatsApp is insane, and I have to leave all the groups now because I can't stay in them anymore. But just seeing my phone go like blank, 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 as all of these parents are reaching out to each other. It's like they're all in their individual houses, but they're going like, oh God, is anyone else awake at 3 a.m? I just want to check in. Or does anyone want to go for a walk this week? And just knowing it's not just this one space that they come to once a week, but it's this space that's holding them hopefully the whole way through. And as we see, for years, whether they're still coming to us or not. And that is really the goal, is not for them to be attached to us as like a organization, but for them to attach to each other and carry each other through.
You're really nurturing that connection.
That's really the goal. Yeah.
And not being a mum myself, you talked earlier about running a business while parenting full-time being a juggle.
Yeah.
How do you manage that balance, and what advice do you have for other parent founders?
Yeah, that is a really great question. I'm still trying to figure it out. In the meantime, I've had a third baby.
Wow.
I had a third baby last year. And so that has really, having a third baby while being in the midst of running and growing this business has been an adventure. I'm lucky that he's like asleep right now so I can do this. But it really is a juggle, and that has what made me bring on even more facilitators so that I can step back from the facilitation side of things while I'm home with him. So I'm not facilitating any of the groups right now myself, except for one evening antenatal class, because I can now leave him for one evening a week. So it's really made me have to trust in other people. And again, that's like a financial sacrifice, because if I'm hiring other people, then I have to pay them, and I'm really intent on paying people well for the time that they're spending, and I want them to want to keep doing this. So otherwise, it's really a juggle. It's doing things while the baby naps and not knowing how long that period of time is going to be. It's doing things in the evening after everyone has gone to bed. It's also just having to, I think one thing that parenthood really makes you do is just prioritize and figure out what your priorities are. So I'll like write a big to-do list, and then I'm like, okay, but what are the two most important things that need to get done like now this week, and what can wait? Because you really just can't do it all. So it's like being okay with letting things fall through the crack. And a friend was saying recently, there's a lot of things that you have to do in your life. It might be like you are either running your business well, you have a clean and tidy house, or you're looking after your kids well, and you got to pick like two of those. You can't do all three. So you're just constantly kind of like moving between feeling like you're doing like one thing okay and the rest is shit. And I'm just really grateful for my branding that it's called Imperfect Parents, that I could constantly be like, that's okay. I'm not trying to do any of this perfectly.
No one's judging you.
No, done is better than perfect. My Instagram page is absolutely not a curated feed by any means. Most of my Instagram content is me doing something, going like, oh, I should probably film this. Like, oh, I could talk about this thing that I just did. Like, it's not strategic, it's not planned, and probably if I did that, it would be better. But I think that people also appreciate the rawness and honesty and imperfection of it as well, because I'm not trying to paint any brilliant pictures.
Well, you're certainly in the perfect community to be living that and be an example and showing people that it's okay just to do what you can and do your best.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, and I imagine like having a really great support system on the journey is really important. Like, have you got any mentors or family, friends, community that's played a role in your success?
Yeah, that's a really great point. And support, like both from my own family as well, has been really important. So my partner going, cool, I'll take the kids out for a few hours while you get some work done on the weekends. We live next door to my mother, which is also very helpful. She helps out with the kids on Fridays often. We had my dad living around the corner until he died 18 months ago, nearly 2 years ago. So I've had a lot of family and friend support. But yeah, the whole time that I've been running the groups, I've had a supervisor who is a psychotherapist, and she used to run her own mother support groups. So I have worked with her for more of the like how the groups are running. Like if we come upon any like hairy conversation issues or anything, I can go to her and talk about them. And that's been really important for me in terms of making sure that what we're doing is safe for the people who are attending, because none of us are qualified therapists. And people attending often joke that the groups are a bit like group therapy, which I definitely am not trying to advertise them as such. But we do encounter like heavy topics, and I want to make sure that we're handling them in ways that are safe for everybody attending. So that's my professional supervision side of things. And then I also have been working with a business mentor from Startup Aotearoa. Her name's Karen, and she has been really fantastic in helping me strategize from a business point of view, trying to encourage me to do that at least.
Oh, can you tell me more about that?
Startup Aotearoa? Yeah, absolutely. So Startup Aotearoa is a government-funded business mentoring program, and you can apply. You have to like go to an application interview. There are criteria to get in with them, but if you do, then they offer you 10 free mentoring sessions with one of their business mentors. You get allocated like a different mentor depending on what your business is and whose expertise matches what you're doing. Yeah, so that's been really helpful to have that ongoing mentorship and have someone that I can go back to and go like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Oh, thank you for sharing about that, because I imagine that's something that not everybody knows about. So great to get the word out that exists.
Yeah, exactly. And I found out about it from another friend of mine, Renata, who is another mum who started her own business. And yeah, it's also really nice to like have other mums in business to chat to, because it is such a unique thing juggling the two. It's like having a business is like having another child that you're responsible for. And she actually organises monthly mum and business catch-ups again, which is really nice. I feel like I set up these groups in order to support parents in their experience, and now I'm like, I feel like I want that support as like a business owner as well, because you get quite siloed in what you're doing. And while there's lots of other people working in this perinatal support space, we're all quite siloed. We went to a really great seminar last week run by PADA, which is Perinatal Anxiety and Depression Aotearoa. They're like a non-profit. And they ran a seminar day on takatapui perinatal support, so supporting queer whānau through the perinatal period. And it was just so lovely to go and be in a room with other people working in this space and who are actively supporting queer families as well, and going like, okay, great, you exist. I didn't know that. Like, we can tell people about you. Because, yeah, it's like there's so many people out here doing different things in different places, and we don't necessarily know about each other.
Yes, it's so hard to find what you're looking for if you don't even know it exists.
Exactly, yeah. And we really try to provide resources to parents beyond what we do, so it's always just so helpful to know like who we can refer them to.
Yeah. And I imagine working with a mentor too helps you look at where you are, how far you've come, think about where you want to go. What does success mean for you now in the business, and how has that definition evolved since starting?
Yeah, that's a question that I'm probably still trying to answer. I'm still really trying to figure it out. I remember that was one of the first questions actually that Karen asked me was, what do you want this to look like? Do you want to be the CEO in your office up here, or do you want to be still on the ground working with people? And it's been interesting not facilitating myself and like getting a bit of FOMO from that, and going like, oh, I actually miss, like, there's all these people in our community and I haven't met them, and I miss having that face-to-face time with people. So it's still, it feels like it's still this real like moving goal. But for me, really, just in terms of goals, like a big one is figuring out a way to be financially sustainable and making these financially accessible for as many people as possible. Got some goals about expanding even further. And I haven't really talked about how we started with like our groups just in central Auckland, and this year, like just this term, we launched our first groups in Orewa and Hobsonville Point. So we're like trying to spread a little bit geographically now as well, so that we can access other communities.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you can see yourself expanding the services that you offer, and what excites you about the future, whether you see that going nationwide one day.
I think that's a bit of a like scary goal. With our like expansion this term, I brought on 3 new facilitators. I trained up like a whole group. And so I've developed a bit of a, a bit of a model for like a training program in order to expand. So I feel like I've created that now, and I'm like, it would be possible to, but it's also really scary to do that, because the more we expand, the more I feel like I'm letting go of control of it, and I get worried about not having as much oversight as I want. Like this is like my baby, and letting other people facilitate it, I get just worried that, it might lose something in that process of what makes it useful and helpful and special. And also the admin for running that many groups, it becomes really enormous. Already I'm basically full-time admin and constantly feel like I'm behind because I also have an 8-month-old baby at home. So trying to do it in ways that feel sustainable is really important.
Yes, I guess it's a fine balance of wanting to help as many people as you can, but being able to keep it so that you're still able to manage the workload.
Yeah. And also expanding to every new place comes a bit of a risk. So like we expanded to these new areas this term and we didn't fill those groups, which means that I take a financial loss on them. And so it's like a financial risk to do that as well. And obviously I kind of just see it as like a bit of a marketing expense now, going like, okay, we didn't fill the group, but we've got 8 people in that group and hopefully they will get something out of it and then they will tell their friends. And so the next time around, hopefully we will fill them. But it's a risk.
So it's being okay with letting it grow naturally, but having to be patient while that happens.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you could go back to day one, what advice would you give yourself knowing what you know now and how it's all turned out?
That's a great question. Honestly, I'm pretty happy with how things have gone. So it's hard to know like what I could have done differently.
Maybe not so much in the business, but some advice for yourself, some confidence or support that you might have needed to hear.
Yeah, I think just to keep listening to the people around me, because the feedback that we were getting was so positive. The feedback that I was getting from mentors was really positive. And so I think, just continuing to listen to that. Also, one thing that I've really been working on this whole time is how you receive feedback from people. Because, I mentioned earlier, we ask for feedback after every group and you get different feedback from different people. And what you're doing is not always going to land perfectly for everybody. We're all different people and we all want different things. And so being able to sort through different kinds of critical feedback has been really important, going like, okay, we can hang on to these people talking about how it was valuable to them. We can listen to this piece of feedback about how we might be able to change and adjust things to better suit someone. And we can see what someone said in their feedback about it not working for them and go like, okay, but that is just because our model doesn't necessarily suit them, rather than saying because of what one person said we have to change everything we're doing. I think, that acceptance of we're not always going to be for everybody. And that's okay.
And the feedback too comes from people in different spaces and what they're going through and their experiences at the time too.
Yes, exactly.
For parents listening who might be feeling isolated or overwhelmed with what they're going through at the moment, what's one piece of encouragement or advice that you'd love for them to hear?
Oh, you're just never alone. You're never alone in what you're going through in parenting. And I think if you're using social media as a way of connecting with other parents, be really critical about what you are following and how it makes you feel. Because there is so much out there that, and this is social media in general, not just parenting, that makes us feel like we're not doing enough, that we're not exercising enough or wearing enough makeup or wearing the right clothes or whatever it is. If the media that you're consuming is making you feel like that, you don't have to follow it. We have the ability to curate what we're seeing. So curate it in a way that makes you feel good. Yeah.
Yes.
Because it's just not worth your energy. Your energy is so precious that using it to hate on yourself is not worth it. Yeah.
With a society that is so online, I can see people maybe wanting something like this as an online service as opposed to in person. I imagine they're still quite different. Is that something that you've ever thought about, or do you feel that you just want to stick with the in person?
Oh, I've definitely thought about it. From a financial perspective, it would probably be smart. And I actually just had a message from a friend this morning going you should create an online workshop that you can just make a passive income from. But I'm but what we're doing is not
one size fits all.
Something you can just watch a video about. And I mean, I'm sure there are ways to facilitate that emotional social connection online. I feel like I was just a bit burned by trying to do that over COVID, that I really don't enjoy working over Zoom. There's something about it that just feels too removed. And I think that what we're doing is really community based, and I don't know, I'm sure there are ways to do it, and I'm sure someone will tell me that it should be done. And I get people asking in my DMs all the time about starting an online one. It's probably my privilege as well of living in a city surrounded by people going but there's people there. Just whereas if you live rurally, there aren't people there and you still want that connection. So I'm sure there is a place for it. I just haven't really wrapped my head around it yet.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean that you have to do it either. It just means that it can suit other people, but not necessarily what you want to put your focus and time and energy in.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? You've got to figure out, there are a million different ways that we could expand, but you've got to figure out what your niche is and, what you want to focus on.
Yep, we've only got so much time in the day, so you want to spend it doing what you enjoy.
Exactly, yeah, especially now. Maybe when my youngest is in daycare a little bit more and I have a wee bit more time on my hands, but that's probably not for another year or so I've got a while.
Yeah. And is there a message you'd like to leave our community with? Anything we haven't covered that you'd like to share?
One thing that I haven't really talked about yet is that last year, again, kind of in response to our community demands, we started an evening group, which initially was for dads, but because of our inclusive philosophy, it's now just an evening group for parents. And that has been really cool to see that take off. It is facilitated by a dad who is also a teacher and has quite a range of ages of children. And it's been just really cool to see that the model that we have created for supporting primary parents who are mostly at home during the day, can also work in this evening group. At the moment, it's all attended by men, but that they are also getting this social support that is so valuable, because we were hearing from the parents attending our group, they're oh, this has just been so incredible for me. I wish that there was something like this for my partner as well, because it's a big adjustment for them becoming parents too. Yeah, it's really important to remember that all of us are navigating this whole new space when we have children. And when you have each child, it changes. So even if you've already got one child, when you have a second, everything changes again. When you have a third, everything changes again. And yeah, one of my favorite things to say to parents is that if you're finding it hard, it's because it is hard. It's not because you're doing anything wrong or there's anything wrong with your baby. It's just hard. And I think hearing that can, again, bring that self-compassion to go I'm doing a really hard thing. I'm doing it as well as I can on any given day, and that's okay. We can be good enough parents, and that is enough.
That's a beautiful message. That's something that everybody needs to hear.
Yeah, parent or not.
About parenthood and everything else with life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. One of the reasons that I started these also was because there are so many activities and things out there geared towards babies, different classes and activities and whatever that you can take your baby to that are really baby focused. And I really believe that the babies are fine. And if the parents are okay, then the babies are going to be okay. So I really wanted to focus something on the parents themselves rather than on the babies, because My personal experience was like attending some of these baby activities and really wanting to like chat with the other parents there, but you're having to do it in between singing nursery rhymes or something really awkward. Just creating a forum where parents could actually do that with each other, and that's what it's designed for. I felt like that was really missing.
So if people want to connect with you to know more or join one of your services, how can they do that?
My baby's just woken up.
Oh, perfect timing.
Yeah. Best ways to connect with us are our Instagram is imperfectparents.nz. We're on TikTok, imperfectparents.nz. I'm still exploring that one. And our website is www.imperfectparents.co.nz. The website has the most information about all of our offerings, but I think from the social media you get a bit of an idea of the vibe. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Sophie as much as I did. Her honesty, inclusivity, and the gentle way she challenges the unrealistic expectations of parenting was such a beautiful reminder that no parent is meant to do it alone. I'm so grateful to Sophie for showing us how powerful it is to simply show up imperfectly, truthfully, and in community. Whether you're a parent or someone navigating any kind of change, this episode is an invitation to embrace connection over perfection and take the next step forward, however that looks for you. Remember, you'll find all the links to connect with Sophie and explore Imperfect Parents groups and classes in the show notes. Next time on the podcast, I'm joined by sleep therapist Kate Bly. And trust me, if you've ever struggled with sleep like I have, you won't want to miss this one. Kate's own journey through chronic insomnia led her to a compassionate, evidence-based approach that's helped so many people, myself included. Working with Kate reminded me just how confusing the sleep industry can be. After trying what felt like everything to fall asleep, I was surprised by how much I still didn't know and how simple it can actually be to set yourself up for better sleep. Kate explains how sleep is an innate process our bodies are naturally designed to regulate, and why understanding your sleep drive and circadian rhythm is key to getting quality rest. She also clears up some of the most common and unhelpful sleep myths and shares simple, practical tips for building a regular sleep routine that actually starts in the morning, and I can honestly say has made a big difference in my own life. I can't wait to share this empowering conversation with you. Thanks for taking the time to talk to me today. It's been really interesting to learn about imperfect parents, and you've given me some beautiful golden nuggets of great things that we all need to remember, and I just wish you all the best with the future of growing imperfect parents and just creating these beautiful communities and the space for them to connect and nurture our children into the future. I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Sophie as much as I did. Her honesty, inclusivity, and the gentle way she challenges the unrealistic expectations of parenting was such a beautiful reminder that no parent is meant to do it alone. I'm so grateful to Sophie for showing us how powerful it is to simply show up imperfectly, truthfully, and in community. Whether you're a parent or someone navigating any kind of change, this episode is an invitation to embrace connection over perfection and take the next step forward, however that looks for you. Remember, you'll find all the links to connect with Sophie and explore Imperfect Parents groups and classes in the show notes. Next time on the podcast, I'm joined by sleep therapist Kate Bly. And trust me, if you've ever struggled with sleep like I have, you won't want to miss this one. Kate's own journey through chronic insomnia led her to a compassionate, evidence-based approach that's helped so many people, myself included. Working with Kate reminded me just how confusing the sleep industry can be. After trying what felt like everything to fall asleep, I was surprised by how much I still didn't know and how simple it can actually be to set yourself up for better sleep. Kate explains how sleep is an innate process our bodies are naturally designed to regulate, and why understanding your sleep drive and circadian rhythm is key to getting quality rest. She also clears up some of the most common and unhelpful sleep myths and shares simple, practical tips for building a regular sleep routine that actually starts in the morning, and I can honestly say has made a big difference in my own life. I can't wait to share this empowering conversation with you. Thank you for being part of the Ideas That Inspire community. If today's episode sparked joy or inspiration, please share it with a friend, subscribe, and leave a 5-star review. Because the more people that hear these stories, the more change we can create together. You can join the conversation on Instagram at Ideas That Inspire, where we connect, share, and support each other in living mindfully and making a real impact. You can also find us on YouTube, or visit ideasthatinspire.com to apply to share your story on the podcast, or book a clarity call to take the next step towards your own inspiring idea, goal, or dream. Let's light up the world together, one idea at a time.